Before we get started, we need to talk about a few of the defining characteristics of Kingdom Animalia. First of all of the organisms within Kingdom Animalia are eukaryotic, which means that their cells are more complex and contain a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Second of all of the organisms are multicellular, which is pretty self-explanatory. Multicellular, many cells. Third of all of the organisms within Kingdom Animalia are heterotrophic. That means that they depend on consuming other organisms for their energy sources.
Hello. So our group project is about Phylum Porifera, which means pore-bearing, and that is basically just a name for sponges.
All sponges are multicellular, eukaryotic, and heterotrophic. They are only found in freshwater and saltwater. They have few tissues and no organs. They're all filter feeding. They are all sessile.
I'm in love with the shape of you.
Here we have a picture of a sponge. The size and the shape of a sponge can vary depending on the water turbulence and the available space around the sponge's area. A sponge has no nervous system. It has no brain cells and no nerve cells. A sponge is made up of 2 layers of cells. In between the layers lies a gelatinous layer called the mesenchyme. The mesenchyme contains amoeboid cells and spicules, which are skeletal-like needles. The inner and the outer layers contain some specialized cells. Sponges do have skeletons. There are 2 main components of a sponge skeleton, a protein called spongin, which forms a tough fibrous network, and little spikes called spicules. Spicules are non-living sticks of chemical nature made from either cilia or calcium carbonate, such as calcite or aragonite. These spicules are important in the classification of sponges. Sponges are covered in small little pores called ostia, kind of like the holes all over in regular cleaning sponge. The ostia are little openings that go to canals that lead all the way through the sponge, and water, nutrients, and oxygen can diffuse through them. At the very top of the sponge, the big round opening is called the osculum, or more commonly, the excurrent opening.
Water is drawn through ostia into the sponge. With water comes food particles, which they filter out. Plankton make up 20% of their diet. Organic food particles make up the remaining 80%. Waste particles and fluids diffuse out of the sponge directly, or they flow out the excurrent opening.
So love me like you do, la la.
Most sponges are sessile, which means that they are attached to something. This means that they can't really move, and most sponges depend on water current for any movement at all. Some sponges, however, have the ability to create a root-like system that allows them to crawl extremely slowly across the ocean floor. As far as survival adaptations go, sponges have a strong holding system that allows them to stay sessile or attached to a surface. This helps prevent them from being swept away by the current. Most mature sponges contain both egg and sperm cells. The egg cells stay in the mesenchyme. That's that middle layer in between the outer 2 layers that make up a sponge. Sperm cells are released in clouds out the excurrent opening, where they go and settle in other sponges. Amoeboid cells carry the sperm cells to the egg cells in the mesenchyme. There, fertilization occurs and zygotes develop. Then, the zygotes further develop into multicellular, free-swimming larvae. Most sponges release their larvae out into the water, where they metamorphosize into full adult sponges. Some sponges, however, keep their larvae inside of the mesenchyme, sometimes for long periods of time.
I get knocked down.
And last but not least, sponges have no nervous system.
Welcome to my house.
Sponges are found in mostly salt water, but they are also found in fresh water. They are sessile, and mostly found in the bottom of the ocean.
This is how we do it.